3 days before Diana died, she called Charles. She was crying on the phone. "If something happens to me, protect William and Harry. Don't leave them alone," she said. This was Diana's last conversation with Charles. Before we explore Diana's final conversations and words, please consider subscribing to the Diana Stories and hitting the like button. Your support helps us tell these important stories about Diana's life. The final days of Princess Diana's life were filled with phone calls. She spoke to her sons, to her friends, to people she cared about. According to various sources, she also spoke to Charles, her ex-husband, in what would be their final conversation. What Diana said in these last conversations, particularly to Charles about protecting their children, has become part of the tragic story of her death. The final week. To understand Diana's final conversations, we need to understand what was happening in the last week of her life. Diana was on vacation with Dodi Fayed in late August 1997. They had spent time on Mohammed Al Fayed's yacht in Sardinia and were now in Paris. Diana was happy during this period. Friends who spoke to her described her as relaxed and enjoying herself. She was planning to return to London soon to see William and Harry, who were at Balmoral Castle in Scotland with their father Charles and the royal family. But there were also signs that Diana was feeling unsettled. She had been having nightmares, as we have discussed in previous videos. She had expressed concerns about her safety to several friends. She seemed to be processing difficult emotions, despite the surface happiness of her vacation with Dodi. The call to Charles. According to sources close to Charles, Diana called him approximately 3 days before her death. The exact date isn't definitively confirmed, but it would have been around August 28, 1997. Diana died on August 31. This phone call wasn't typical for Diana and Charles at this stage of their relationship. They were divorced. Their communication was usually limited to necessary discussions about William and Harry. They weren't in the habit of calling each other for emotional conversations. But according to accounts of this call, Diana was emotional. Sources say she was crying or on the verge of tears. The conversation wasn't about logistics or schedules. It was more serious and more personal than their usual interactions. Diana reportedly told Charles that if something happened to her, she wanted him to protect William and Harry. She asked him not to leave them alone, to make sure they were cared for properly. According to these accounts, Diana was specifically concerned about their emotional well-being and wanted Charles to promise he would be there for them. Charles was apparently taken aback by this conversation. Diana seemed genuinely frightened or concerned about something. She wasn't being dramatic or manipulative. She seemed to be expressing real fear that something might happen to her and real worry about what would happen to their sons. Charles's reaction. According to sources, Charles tried to reassure Diana during this phone call. He told her nothing was going to happen to her. He reminded her that William and Harry were his sons too, and of course he would always protect and care for them. He tried to calm Diana's fears.
But after the call ended, Charles was reportedly troubled by the conversation. Diana had seemed genuinely afraid. Her concern about something happening to her wasn't vague or general. It felt specific and urgent. Charles wondered what Diana knew or what she was worried about. Some sources suggest Charles discussed the call with close advisors or family members, expressing concern about Diana's state of mind. Was she being paranoid? Was she in some kind of danger? Should he take her fears more seriously? Within days, Diana was dead. Charles would remember this final conversation with devastating clarity. Diana had essentially asked him to take care of their children if something happened to her, and then something did happen. The conversation that had seemed perhaps overly emotional or unnecessarily worried suddenly seemed prophetic and heartbreaking. The calls to William and Harry. More definitively documented are Diana's final phone calls to William and Harry. These calls happened on August 30, 1997, the day before Diana died. Diana called to speak to her sons. According to various accounts, these calls were warm and loving. Diana told William and Harry that she loved them and missed them. She said she would see them very soon. She asked about what they were doing and expressed interest in their activities. What's particularly poignant about these calls is that they were apparently somewhat routine. Diana regularly called William and Harry when she was away from them. These final calls didn't seem dramatically different from other calls. Diana wasn't saying goodbye in any obvious way. She was being a loving mother, checking in with her children. However, some sources suggest there was something in Diana's tone or her words that felt significant in retrospect. She seemed particularly insistent about telling them she loved them. She seemed to emphasize that they should remember how much she cared about them. At the time, these might have seemed normal maternal expressions. After her death, they took on greater weight.
William and Harry's memories. Both William and Harry have spoken in limited ways about their final conversations with their mother. These are deeply personal, deeply painful memories that they've understandably been reluctant to discuss in detail publicly. Harry has said that the last phone call with his mother was rushed because he and William wanted to get back to playing with their cousins at Balmoral. He has expressed regret about this, wishing he had spoken to his mother longer, told her more about what was happening, engaged more fully in the conversation. This regret is heartbreaking because it's something many people feel after losing a loved one suddenly. We remember the last conversation and wish we had known it was the last conversation, wish we had said more, been more present, expressed our love more clearly. William has been even more private about his final conversation with Diana. He has mentioned it only briefly in interviews, acknowledging that he spoke to his mother the day before she died, but not sharing details of what was said. For both princes, these final phone calls are precious memories, but also painful ones. They represent the last time they heard their mother's voice, the last time she told them she loved them, the last normal moment before everything changed forever. Diana's calls to friends. In addition to Charles, William, and Harry, Diana made several other phone calls in her final days. She spoke to various close friends, and these conversations provide insight into her state of mind. Rosa Monckton, one of Diana's closest friends,
spoke to Diana shortly before her death. According to Rosa, Diana seemed happy, but also somewhat reflective. She talked about her plans for the future, including her charity work. She didn't express fear or concern in this conversation. Lucia Fletcher de Lima, another close friend, also spoke to Diana in the days before her death. Lucia later said Diana had seemed content and was looking forward to returning to London to see William and Harry. Simone Simmons, Diana's spiritual advisor, has claimed she spoke to Diana very close to her death. According to Simone, Diana expressed concerns about her safety during this conversation, though the exact details have been disputed. Paul Burrell, Diana's butler, maintains he spoke to Diana on August 30. According to Burrell, Diana gave him some instructions about arrangements for her return to London. The conversation was practical and routine, though Burrell has said Diana seemed tired. The premonition question. The question that haunts Diana's final conversations is whether she somehow knew what was about to happen. Did she have a premonition of her death? Was she trying to say goodbye without explicitly stating it? The evidence is mixed and open to interpretation. Diana had been having nightmares about her death for weeks. She had written the famous letter to Paul Burrell months earlier, predicting an accident. She had expressed fears to multiple friends about her safety. So when Diana told Charles to protect the children if something happens to me, was this a specific premonition about her imminent death? Or was it a general expression of ongoing anxiety that tragically proved justified? Skeptics argue that Diana had been expressing fears about her safety for months or even years. She had reason to be anxious given the media harassment, her complicated relationship with the royal family, and the general stress of her situation. Her final conversations reflected ongoing anxiety rather than specific knowledge about August 31st. Believers in premonition argue that Diana's fears intensified in her final weeks and days. The nightmares, the conversations with friends, the emotional call to Charles, all of this suggest Diana felt something was imminent. She may not have known the specific details, but she sensed danger approaching. Charles's response after Diana's death. After Diana died, Charles had to live with the memory of their final conversation. Diana had asked him to protect their children, and then she was gone, leaving William and Harry without their mother. Charles's behavior immediately after Diana's death suggests he took her final request very seriously. He flew to Paris personally to bring Diana's body home. He made sure William and Harry were told about their mother's death gently and with support. He walked behind Diana's coffin with his sons in the funeral procession. In the years since, Charles has tried to honor Diana's memory in his relationship with William and Harry. He has worked to be present in their lives, to support them, to give them the freedom to process their grief and honor their mother. Friends and observers note that Charles's parenting changed after Diana's death. He became more emotionally available, more demonstrative with affection, more willing to bend royal protocol to meet his son's emotional needs. Whether this was directly because of Diana's final words or simply a natural response to his son's devastating loss, it represented Charles taking seriously his responsibility to protect William and Harry. The burden of last words. For Charles, William, and Harry, Diana's final words carry enormous weight. These were the last things they heard from her. These conversations are frozen in memory, replayed countless times, analyzed for every nuance and meaning.
For Charles, protect the children became a mandate he has tried to fulfill. It gave him a specific responsibility, a final request from Diana that he could honor through his actions as a father. For William and Harry, their final "I love you" from Diana became a precious memory, but also a source of pain. They wished they had said more, stayed on the phone longer, known that this would be their last chance to talk to their mother. Last words carry disproportionate significance when someone dies suddenly. We want them to have been profound, meaningful, a perfect encapsulation of the relationship, but often last words are ordinary, routine, mundane. Diana's final conversations were a mix, some profound, the call to Charles about protecting the children, some routine, the calls to William and Harry that seemed like typical check-ins. What Diana didn't know. One of the saddest aspects of Diana's final conversations is what she didn't know. She didn't know these would be her last words to her children. She didn't know that within hours she would be dead. She didn't know that William and Harry would spend the rest of their lives remembering and analyzing these final phone calls. If Diana had known, what would she have said differently? Would she have spoken longer to William and Harry? Would she have told them more explicitly how proud she was of them, what she hoped for their futures, how she wanted them to remember her? Diana was planning to return to London. She was going to see her sons in just a few days. She thought these phone calls were routine check-ins during a brief separation, not final goodbyes. She had no reason to believe these would be the last words she ever spoke to her children. The weight on William and Harry. For William and Harry, their mother's final words are a burden they've carried their entire adult lives. They were 15 and 12 years old when Diana died, old enough to remember the conversations clearly, young enough that they couldn't fully process what they were about to lose. Harry has been more open about his struggle with this. He has spoken about the regret of rushing the final phone call, about wishing he had known it was the last time he would hear his mother's voice. This regret has been part of his complicated grief journey. William has been more private, but carries the same burden. As the older brother and future king, William felt additional responsibility after Diana's death. Her final words to him, whatever they were specifically, became something he's had to carry, while also trying to move forward with his life and duties. Both princes have used their mother's final expressions of love as a foundation. She told them she loved them in that last conversation. Whatever else happened, whatever questions remain about her death, they know their mother loved them deeply. That final "I love you" has been something to hold on to.
Charles and Diana's complicated legacy. Diana's final words to Charles about protecting the children represented a moment of trust between two people whose relationship had been deeply damaged. Despite their difficult marriage, painful separation, and contentious divorce, Diana still turned to Charles when she was afraid and needed to know her children would be protected. This moment humanizes both Diana and Charles. Diana, for all her justified anger at Charles over their marriage, still saw him as a father who loved his children and would protect them. Charles, whatever his failures as a husband, was someone Diana believed would step up for William and Harry if something happened to her. Their final conversation wasn't about their relationship or their past conflicts. It was about their shared love for their sons and Diana's need for reassurance that someone would be there for William and Harry if she couldn't be. Conclusion. Diana's final words to Charles, "Protect the children," and her final loving conversations with William and Harry have become part of the tragic story of her death. These words take on enormous significance because they were final, because Diana would never have another chance to speak to her children or ask Charles to watch over them. Whether Diana had a specific premonition about her imminent death or was expressing general anxiety that tragically proved justified, her final conversations reveal her priorities. She was thinking about William and Harry. She was worried about who would protect them. She wanted them to know she loved them. For Charles, William, and Harry, these final words are both precious and painful. They're the last thing they have from Diana, the last communications before everything changed. They've had to carry the weight of these final conversations for over 25 years. Diana's final words remind us that she was, above everything else, a mother who loved her children deeply. Her final concern was for them. Her final request was that they be protected. Her final message to them was that she loved them. In the end, that's what mattered most to Diana, and that's the legacy she left in her final words.
Important disclaimer. This video explored reported accounts of Princess Diana's final conversations with Charles, William, and Harry. While it is documented that Diana spoke to her sons on August 30th, 1997, and that she had communications with Charles in her final days, the specific content of these private conversations is based on various sources and accounts that cannot be independently verified. We've presented these stories respectfully, acknowledging they involve deeply personal, private moments for William and Harry. The exact words spoken in these final conversations remain known primarily to those who were part of them, and we honor the privacy of these painful memories.